I don't know if y'all saw, this definitely had the internet split. One of the biggest announcements to come out of Comic-Con, which was this past weekend in San Diego. I feel like, by the way, I didn't really see a lot of big announcements. The one thing I did like is early reviews came out for that new Batman show coming to, I think it's called Cape Crusader or something like that, coming to Amazon. It's last I checked, it was sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So early reviews suggest that shit is fire. I'm excited. But in terms of overall, I feel like the announcements were pretty weak at Comic-Con. This was the biggest announcement to come out of Comic-Con, and it's that Robert Downey Jr. is returning in the MCU as Doctor Doom in Avengers Doomsday, set for May 2026. He actually appeared on stage dressed in costume. And this got people split, so I wanted to bring it up on chat and see how everybody felt, especially after Deadpool. Most people seem to really like Deadpool. What's the vibe on this? Do we like this pick? We're bringing back Robert Downey Jr., formerly the dead Iron Man, as arguably, I'd probably say he's probably my favorite Marvel villain, Doctor Doom. The GOAT villain of Marvel. I'm indifferent. I don't like it. It's cool. It's lazy. My personal opinion, while y'all sitting there spamming the shit, I'm indifferent as well. I don't know how to feel. I'm not happy, but I'm not sad. I'm more so happy that they are committing to Doctor Doom, because that is my favorite Marvel villain. But yeah, I got to see the writing. I got to see what the story is. Where are we going with this? I've seen some theories and I got some videos saved about some multiverse variant type shit, which, you know, is cool. But then on the flip side, and shout out to, minor spoiler, but they make fun of it in the Deadpool movie. That was one of my favorite jokes in the Deadpool movie, when they made fun of the fact that the MCU's multiverse is just convoluting the storylines and it's making things unnecessarily complicated and they're not executing correctly. I like that they poked fun at that because it showed us a level of self-awareness, and I'm like, oh, there's hope for the MCU. But then they do this. I'm like, then they do this. So like, I don't know how I feel. I'm waiting to see what's the writing, who's the director. We know Robert Downey Jr. is a good actor. Hot take, the Eternals is very underrated. That's a very hot take because that shit is hot garbage, nigga. Doom is the most diabolical villain in Marvel and he needs an original actor. Yeah, I feel like it would have been just easier to get a new actor and tell an original story with the Fantastic Four and then introduce him into the greater MCU after that. We all thought he was going to show up in the new Black Panther movie, like stealing some vibranium or some shit like that. I wish that would have happened. Like that would have been his first hint. But I'm kind of indifferent. Are you going to try Vision's Amana demo? Probably not. The Russos are directing it. Okay. It's a cash grab. At bare minimum, they're going to make money off of this. But I'll tell you this much. At bare minimum, they're going to make money off of this because Robert Downey Jr. is going to bring seats, because you in the chat, as well as we're more comic book enthusiasts probably. That's why you watch this kind of content. So we're going to judge the art a little bit harder. But the casual viewer who just watches Marvel movies, it is going to put them in the chair. It's going to put them in the seat because Iron Man is familiar. But also it's going to confuse them because people like my girlfriend, she's asking like, why the fuck is Iron Man Doctor Doom? And I had to sit there and explain it to her. I'm like, oh, there's a whole storyline with the variant, and he does some mind control shit. And she's just like, it's too much of this multiverse shit. It's fucking confusing. I was like, I'm not gonna lie. And I understand where you're coming from. So I'm like, if she feels that way, I'd imagine that's how most the average casual person feels. So it's really gonna have to come down to some solid execution. And I feel like if they would have just did a storyline with the original actor with Doom, it probably would have been much easier to execute. But we'll see. Will she? Some real cool cameos in Deadpool, by the way. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there was some real cool cameos. I got some videos talking about the Robert Downey Jr. shit too. I found this video, the shared history between Iron Man and Doctor Doom explained. So we gonna watch this shit together. Got to explain to casuals about anchor beings and shit. Right. That's exactly how I feel about it. As soon as I fully understood the stories, they started doing this multiverse shit. Yeah, I feel like the multiverse is cool and it's fun to play with, but then I feel like it's becoming a crutch for the MCU. They're leaning too much into the spectacle. And the thing is, like, just tell a good story, even if it's a superhero movie. Like, the reason why Blade, the original Blade, is still a classic, in my opinion, because it's just a good story with good action, very practical effects, just basic kung fu and hand-to-hand shit. And that, because back then, you know, the special effects wasn't that good. They couldn't use that shit as a crutch as much. I feel like they're getting too much. They're suffering from the same issue as the new Star Wars trilogy. Although Marvel is not as worse as the new Star Wars trilogy, but the new Star Wars trilogy was too much spectacle and not enough storytelling. Not like, yeah, it's cool we have these Jedis and these cool space wizards and shit like that, but you also have to humanize the characters, and they fucked up when they didn't make Finn a fucking Jedi, because that was the easiest way to humanize the story. You had a stormtrooper who was brainwashed his whole life since he was a child. He could have had this whole glow up, but they dropped the ball on that. Fast and the Furious 2.
This year,
Fast and the Furious is like a guilty pleasure. Like I feel like everybody who watches the Fast and the Furious, they know what they're watching. It's like niggas who eat pizza rolls. Like, you know, pizza rolls are not good for you. Don't give a fuck. Mom made pizza rolls, you know? That's what I look at. I don't put it in the same bracket. I don't hold Fast and the Furious to the same standard.
this year's Marvel Studio panel at San Diego Comic-Con may not have been overflowing with new reveals and announcements, but there was one huge shocker to cap off the evening. We learned that Avengers 5 has now become Avengers Doomsday, and none other than Robert Downey Jr. has been cast as the iconic Marvel villain, Doctor Doom. Marvel fans—
I will say, before we get into this video, I'm gonna just put this in the air. I'm not gonna say nothing after this. I saw a very interesting tweet that it was randomly on my For You page, and they was just like, yeah, the crucifixion of Jonathan Majors had nothing to do with his case, and this is not me condoning anything that happened in the case, but they were just saying it's very hypocritical to condemn Jonathan Majors and get rid of his role and then bring back Robert Downey Jr., because for those of you unaware, Robert Downey Jr. has a very extensive rap sheet. And, you know, I was like, that's a fair point. You kind of like the white man gets to, you know, commit crimes and be cool and get the big role, but the black man got to get the fuck up out of here. All of it's wrong, if you ask me. But it's hypocritical. It's virtue signaling, grandstanding. Yeah, and we got another Ezra Miller on our hands. Yeah,
it's a big deal that arguably Marvel's biggest and most important villain is finally going to be making his MCU debut. But why is he being played by Downey of all people? Is Doom an evil variant of Tony Stark? We have a lot more questions than answers at this point, but it's important to remember one thing. Iron Man and Doctor Doom have a long history together in the Marvel comic book universe.
Oh?
And we can only assume that casting will play on that history in one way or another.
That's true, J. Clue. You're right. Yeah, because, I mean, yeah, he had a drug problem and was crashing out, which is not as bad. There is levels to the shit. That's a fair point, too. But it still feels like a little, to some degree, like virtue signaling. Like, it kind of goes back to what I always say, like, people like to pick and choose what they're mad about, because the motherfucker was crashing out.
As we grapple with this surprise announcement, let's break down the relationship between Doom and Iron Man in the comics, and how that might play into the MCU's unusual take on Doctor Doom.
Okay, they're gonna explain it. It's kind of hot. Why is it so damn hot in my house? Hey, hold up, Chad. I gotta turn my air on. It always get hot when I fucking start talking, bro. It's not my breath, I swear. Let's see. Shout out to Superman with the sub.
What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
I hope that's just some cheap shit that they put together and gave him, or some shit he bought at Party City. I hope the budget's a little bit higher than this.
Will always be defined by his feud with Mr. Fantastic. As the traditional origin story goes, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom were college roommates and intellectual rivals from pretty much the very beginning. Victor was obsessed with building—
There was a really funny Fantastic Four kind of Easter egg in like Daredevil, not Daredevil, but a Deadpool. That shit was pretty funny.
A machine that would allow him to communicate with his dead mother. Reed warned his frenemy that the machine was dangerous, but the arrogant Victor didn't listen. That stubbornness wound up blowing up in his face, literally, when the machine exploded and scarred Victor's handsome mug. One soul-searching journey around the world later, Victor was reborn as Doctor Doom. Mr. Fantastic has certainly remained Doom's arch enemy over the years. But
Man, we know the history. I want to hear what's the correlation.
Always had such a love-hate relationship. It doesn't help that Tony is purely a man of science, whereas Doom is all too happy to tap into the power of the supernatural in his never-ending quest for more power. That conflict between technology and magic is also what made the Mandarin such an enduring Iron Man foe. But their relationship isn't always purely antagonistic. Following the events of 2015's Secret Wars, which ends with Doom being redeemed.
Which, by the way, I also saw a tweet. I retweeted it too. They said that when the Doctor Doom movie comes out, Doomsday, the movie better start off, because you know how they always do like the Marvel montage with all the characters? It better start off with the MF Doom song. And I agree. That'd be fire. That'd be fire. I agree. Which, by the way, because I've been collecting records, I've heard MF Doom songs, but I've never actually sat down and listened to like a whole project. But everything that I've listened to, I liked. If there's an MF Doom album I should listen to, which one should I start with? Like, if I were to buy a record, which one should I get? You say we need to see the records? I might show you.
And getting his old face back, Doom turns
Mad Villainy.
He becomes a supporting character in 2015's Invincible Iron Man, insisting on lending a helping hand despite Tony refusing to believe that the former Doctor Doom is on the level. Doom even becomes the new Iron Man for a time, after Tony is left in a comatose state during the events of 2016 Civil War 2. That's the premise for a series called Infamous Iron Man, as Doom forges his own suit of Iron Man.
That's the theory. That's what I was saying. Like, people were saying they're going to try to adapt these comic books. So they were saying
to
the
carry
same
on
thing.
Tony's historic legacy. Doom even defends Stark Industries from an attack by the Hood and his minions, but at the cost of his recently healed face. It's also worth pointing out that there are versions of Doctor Doom in the Marvel Multiverse who are actually Tony Stark. One of these is Iron Maniac, a version of Tony Stark introduced in 2004's Marvel Team-Up #3. Another is featured in 2010's What If, Iron Man Demon in Armor #1. In this world, Victor Von Doom swapped bodies with Tony Stark in college. Trapped in his rival's body, Tony swears revenge and begins a years-long quest to destroy Doom's Stark Universal Company.
I'm not gonna lie though, when you think about it too, bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, it feels like a desperate play. Because I'm not gonna lie. Imagine being in the movie theater. Like, me personally, I think they should have just announced like, hey, due to circumstances, we're gonna be moving differently, and it's no longer gonna be Kang's Dynasty. We're doing Doomsday. They should have just announced Doomsday the movie, right? They could even have somebody on stage dressed as Doctor Doom. But I think it would have been I think this announcement would have hit a whole lot harder if we were in the movie theater. Imagine there's a scene where he finally comes out and you see it's Robert Downey Jr. The fucking, like, you remember the final scene, and who saw Spider-Man across the multiverse or Spider-Verse or whatever, the second one, the final scene. When the final scene happened in that movie, the movie theater, I heard the whole movie theater, including me, said, like, I'm like, yo, that's some good writing, because I didn't expect that shit. If they would have did that, and that, if they would have revealed it in the movie, it doesn't matter if you feel good or bad about it. It would have threw you off. I think they should have saved it for the movie, the reveal. But like, now he's gonna appear in the movie, and the whole time I'm like, oh, that's Robert Downey Jr. Like, that's Iron Man.
New mask, same task, and the task for all of us, including everybody in this room, together.
It would have leaked way before the launch. To be fair, I went to go see Deadpool this weekend, and there were some characters that appeared in Deadpool. I was like, oh shit. I'm not gonna spoil it. I didn't see no spoilers. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like they've been pretty good about keeping things under wrap. If you know, you know. There was definitely, I was like, oh shit.
Help create
There's hope.
the greatest possible experience that we can all have together in a movie theater.
At this point, we've established that Doctor Doom and Iron Man have a long shared history together in the comics, but that still doesn't answer the basic question. Why is Downey, of all people, playing Doctor Doom? Why cast the actor who made Iron Man?
My boyfriend literally made a noise, and I was like, nigga, shut up. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't want to spoil the movie, but if you've seen the movie, you know who I'm talking about. There's 4 characters in the movie that showed up, and when they first showed up, I was like, oh shit, in the movie theater. And my girl was like, who the fuck is that? Who's that? I'm trying to pay attention to the movie. All right, so this person is from this person and this person is from that. Like, I had to sit there and explain it while I'm trying to, like, shut up.
The possibility is that Downey is simply playing a new MCU role, independent of any connection to Tony Stark. Don't forget, Doom is well known for never taking off his mask, whether that's because he can't or simply won't.
There was one joke out of those characters too. There was a really good joke out of all of them that like I wish I could talk on about it, but I'm gonna give it like another week. That I thought it was a really good joke for like really hardcore fans.
Depending on how over the top Downey's performance is, and there's plenty of room to go big with a character like Doom, the movie may simply be able to ignore the fact that the guy underneath Doom's armor looks and sounds an awful lot like Tony Stark. If Downey has proved anything with his performance in 1992's Chaplin and Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes movies, it's that he can really transform himself with the right accent.
I know a joke you're talking about. We think about the same joke. I just
and
know
it's
it.
not as if Downey would be the first MCU actor to return in a complete...
Listen, there were some good jokes in that movie, and then I feel like when the jokes landed, they landed, but when they didn't, they didn't.
And then Ying Nan in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. David Dash
Shout out to Vice King with the sub, appreciate it.
Role in the first two Ant-Man movies than he did in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and Gemma Chan played Minerva.
Ant-Man and the Quantumania is a modern disaster. That was the first time that like, cause like I'm super into this shit. I remember me and my girl went to see that shit. Like I had secondhand embarrassment coming out the movie theater after Ant-Man. I'd be like, I'm sorry I dragged you to that, babe. I'm sorry.
And Gemma Chan
Shit was a modern disaster. I don't know what the fuck we just watched.
So there is a precedent for this kind of double casting. That said, it seems hard.
I liked it. Nah, that shit was ass, dude.
Downey Jr. again without
MODOK, that shit was ass.
Tony Stark. Another option is that Doom has been reimagined as a variant of Tony Stark. We know that the newly retitled The Fantastic Four First Steps is set in an alternate universe.
The only redeeming feature was Kang in the movie.
Of New York City. Perhaps in this universe, Tony Stark is the one who rooms with Reed Richards in college and develops an unhealthy obsession with besting his rival.
The early rumors is the Fantastic Four MCU movie is supposed to be set in the 60s. I mean, because that's originally when they came out in the comic books. And if that turns out to be true, how's that going to play into the MCU? Are they going to like freeze them like Captain America? Is he going to make like a time machine and come to the future or some shit like that? That's another thing I'm confused about too, if that turns out to be true.
Victor, what's the matter? Afraid of ghosts?
This Tony Stark may undergo some sort of twisted inversion of the origin story seen in 2008's Iron Man, leaving him disfigured and retreating inside a powerful suit of armor.
Oh, what if they did this? Would y'all be mad about this? Y'all remember in Iron Man 3, ass movie by the way, you remember in Iron Man 3, the villain was supposed to be the Mandarin, which is his actual arch villain in the comic books. But then the plot twist was he was a fraud. What if like in the movie, he's not actually Doctor Doom? He's like, and it's almost, and what if Robert Downey Jr. is the fraud and it's playing up that joke even more? And then a real Doctor Doom pulls up basically. Hate it when they did. I didn't like it either. Yeah, because I thought his villain is actually cool. I was like, why did they do that to that character?
To plot vengeance against the Richards family. Doom may not be the primary antagonist in the Fantastic Four First Steps, that would be Galactus, but we have to imagine that he'll appear in the movie in some capacity. Ideally, the Fantastic Four movie will provide Downey's new character with an origin story, prior to him taking center stage in Avengers Doomsday. We also know that the Fantastic Four are eventually making the jump to the MCU, as they're now confirmed to be appearing in both Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So it's probably safe to assume that Doom will make the journey with them. Making Doom a refugee from another world would also help explain why the character is yet to appear in any previous MCU project. Whether Downey's Doom is Victor Von Doom or Tony Stark, it may not
Captain America
much in the end. This is a villain who's egomaniacal to the extreme.
Yeah, we know who the character is. So they're basically saying the same things, the theories that I've seen on Twitter, which is these TikToks that I actually had saved.
This could be how Marvel's going to bring Robert Downey
It's the
Jr.'s
same
Doctor
thing.
Doom into the MCU.
That one's
Does
the same.
anyone else-
This one was interesting. He made a valid point too. Like, so we just supposed to act like Avengers King Dynasty doesn't exist?
Find it hilarious that Marvel Studios is completely ignoring the fact that Avengers Doomsday was originally supposed to be Avengers the Kang Dynasty. This was supposed to be Avengers.
Yeah, it's Eris Quinones from Variant.
And they're
yeah, he's a good creator.
completely ignoring its existence, like they didn't make this logo, like they didn't announce this to the world, like they didn't spend several years building Kang the Conqueror to this movie, and Secret Wars, and the Council of Kangs, completely ignoring it, and instead...
The only thing I think they're going to try to do to justify it is, so Ant-Man Quantumania, that was supposed to be like the start of the new phase. I think what they're going to do is that movie doesn't exist. If I had to take an educated guess, Deadpool, sort of, but it has nothing to do with this. The new Captain America is probably going to be the start of the new phase. The new Captain America is going to probably start dropping hits about Doctor Doom, probably, if I had to take a wild guess. And then we're just supposed to act like Ant-Man 3 doesn't exist, basically.
Instead, at San Diego Comic-Con, decides to be like, we're just gonna do Avengers Doomsday. Look over here. Look at Robert Downey Jr. RDJ. Isn't he cool in that Doom mask? Yeah, a variant of Doctor Doom. That's gonna be fun. What are you talking about?
The end of Loki season 2 kind of gave closure to King. If you've seen it, I have not watched it. Or they'll say Doomsday killed the rest of the King variants. Make some bullshit up. Yeah. Also, this whole movie feels like a gimmick to get very basic dude bros back to the movie. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's a gimmick to get people. At bare minimum, it's gonna sell tickets, so they better. It's gonna fill seats. The movie better be good. It better be good at bare minimum. But you know, what can you do? We're all sitting here yapping, but y'all, I guarantee y'all will be there the weekend it comes out. At this point in the MCU, unfortunately, like the whole Thanos saga was like NBA 2K from 2K11 to like 2K17. We are now in 2K18 to now. So by the time we get to Avengers, you said, and here's the thing, it's the only good superhero content on the market. So it's like, and there's nothing else to watch. Nigga, ain't nobody watching no Agatha. Agatha could go to hell. Ain't nobody watching that shit. Bro, I would not be mad if they came out and be like, we're canceling Agatha. We're just going to scrap it straight to DVD, straight to streaming. Well, it wasn't going to be streaming, but like, yeah, let me get out that shit. Amazon's doing good. Yeah, but Amazon's starting to milk the boys a little bit too much. My theory is that Doom uses the Molecule Man to blow up the console of Kangs. They're going to come up with some bullshit convenient excuse. And watch, whatever excuse they come up with to kill Kang, it's going to be in a quick little 2-minute flashback. Yeah, so I went back in time and I dropped the nuke where they're going to drop remember the scene at the end of Quantumania where all the kings were cheering and shit? They're going to do some scene where fucking somebody goes back in time or goes to the future and drops a nuke on all them niggas and kills them. And then Dr. Doom is going to rise from the ash. Do, 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 do.